Somewhere between the Reagan hangover and the dot-com boom, studios greenlit films about terrible people doing terrible things with dry jokes and a straight face. Stories that let audiences laugh at murder and crime without feeling like they needed a shower afterward. Here are the dark comedy thrillers from the 90s that actually pulled it off. Miami Blues follows Alec Baldwin as Frederick J. Frenger Jr., a grinning ex-con who drifts into Miami and immediately starts causing damage, accidentally killing a Hare Krishna in the airport, and realizing just how easy violence can be.
Price check, Uzi squirt gun.
Fred Ward plays Hoke Mosley, a rumpled, middle-aged homicide detective who becomes obsessed with catching him. While Jennifer Jason Leigh appears as a vulnerable woman, Frenger pulls into his orbit. Directed by George Armitage, the film plays like a sun-drenched noir, treating murder with the same casual tone as romance or small talk, and letting Baldwin's charm do most of the unsettling work. The movie was adapted from a Charles Willeford novel that Fred Ward optioned himself and initially brought to Jonathan Demme, who passed after having just shot Married to the Mob in Miami. George Armitage took over directing duties, but the movie didn't connect at the box office, earning around $9 million on an $11 million budget. But it's an early showcase for Baldwin, tapping into a comic streak he rarely got to lead with at the time. His character is loose, funny.
How much for the speedboat, man? Oh, the speedboat is very expensive, sir.
And sets the template for the kind of charismatic menace he'd return to later down the line.
That speedboat is $50,000. Wrap it up, man.
You're not anybody in America unless you're on TV. On TV is where we learn about who we really are.
Nicole Kidman plays Suzanne Stone, a small-town weather reporter in New Hampshire who wants to be famous more than she wants anything else.
Because what's the point of doing anything worthwhile if nobody's watching?
Matt Dillon plays the nice guy husband who starts to feel like an obstacle, while Joaquin Phoenix is the teenage outcast she wraps around her finger. He landed the role because director Gus Van Sant had worked with his brother River on My Own Private Idaho. After filming Wrapped, Casey Affleck brought Van Sant a script his brother Ben had written with Matt Damon, which he would direct next. That was Good Will Hunting. The film is based on the Pamela Smart case, the media consultant who manipulated a student into killing her husband. Buck Henry wrote the screenplay while watching Court TV and CNN obsessively, with the Tonya Harding scandal unfolding at the same time. Another real-life story dominating the media about ambition, image, and how far people were willing to go to get what they wanted.
And if people are watching, it makes you a better person.
A small group of liberal grad students in Iowa like to host Sunday dinners and debate politics over wine. One night, they invite a stranger who helped them with car trouble, and he turns out to be a Hitler-admiring racist. The evening goes sideways fast, and it leaves them wondering, if you could go back in time and kill Hitler, would you? The ensemble cast includes Cameron Diaz, Bill Paxton, and Jason Alexander. Director Stacy Title was married to co-star Jonathan Penner, and Ron Perlman, who shows up as a Rush Limbaugh-style conservative pundit, reportedly told Title he'd end their friendship if he didn't get the role. Bill Paxton, who plays a racist trucker, filmed his cameo during a weekend break from shooting Apollo 13. The movie premiered at Toronto in 1995, but never really found a wider audience. Which is a shame, because everyone in this film gets roasted, and it's one of the few satires from the era that refuses to pick a side. Very Bad Things starts as a typical Vegas bachelor party, and immediately detonates when an accidental death turns a weekend of excess into a frantic cover-up. Jon Favreau plays the groom, trying to keep things together, and Cameron Diaz is the fiancé, whose absence hangs over the entire movie. Christian Slater leads the group as the loudest, most reckless presence in the room, alongside Jeremy Piven and Daniel Stern, in yet another male ensemble role where he complains about someone touching his stuff.
They take me back to certain points in my life, okay? Just don't touch my records. Ever.
Hey! Eat my ass! Doesn't help. If you ever touch my minivan again, you are going to be very sorry, brother!
The movie marked Peter Berg's directorial debut, years before Friday Night Lights would redefine his career. Christian Slater signed on early as both war and executive producer, helping get it made, and Stuart Copeland of The Police provides a score that keeps the movie moving even as everything spirals. Released in 1998, it was savaged by critics and struggled to find an audience, but over time it's been embraced by viewers for exactly what it is: a dark comedy that dares you to keep laughing as the decisions get worse, quietly proving how easy it is to root for behavior you really shouldn't. Roland Copping is an insurance investigator who lives in a funhouse rigged with slides, traps, and a pet goose. He makes decisions by rolling dice and takes a childlike pleasure in tormenting the people he catches. When a yuppie couple files a suspicious claim after a home invasion goes wrong, Copping latches onto them and won't let go, turning their lives into a twisted game they can't win. Phil Collins, yes, that Phil Collins, plays Copping with manic energy, and Hugo Weaving plays the husband getting slowly pulled into madness, with Josephine Burns playing the wife caught between them. Phil Collins had done some acting before this, including the lead in the 1988 film Buster, but nothing quite like this. Director Stephen Elliott cast him after seeing him in an episode of Miami Vice and deciding he needed that exact unhinged energy for the role. Collins later said he was better in this than in Buster, and he's not wrong. It's worth tracking down if you can find it, and the whole thing is like a candy-colored nightmare. Collins commits fully to the weird, childlike menace of a villain who treats other people's misery like a board game. It makes you wonder why he didn't act more. A group of wealthy 20-somethings hatch a desperate plan: kidnap a retired mob boss to help them pay the ransom on a friend's kidnapped sister. They drug him at a restaurant, tie him to a chair in a Long Island mansion, and cut off his finger to prove they're serious. The problem is, the mobster is smarter than all of them combined, and he starts playing mind games that turn the friends against each other. Christopher Walken plays the captive and dominates every scene without ever leaving that chair. The young cast includes Henry Thomas, Sean Patrick Flannery, Jay Moore, Jeremy Sisto, and Johnny Galecki, with Dennis Leary showing up as Walken's foul-mouthed enforcer. Director Peter O'Fallon keeps most of the action confined to a single location, letting the tension build through dialogue and paranoia. The movie is based on a short story called The Hostage, and leans hard into the post-Tarantino trend of talky criminals and shifting loyalties. But Walken is the reason to watch. He's menacing, captivating, and completely in control even when he's the one tied up. Daryl Zero is the world's greatest private detective, but he's also a complete mess. He lives behind a door with 6 locks, survives on canned tuna, and writes terrible folk songs on his guitar. He never meets clients directly, leaving that to his exhausted assistant Steve Arlo, who has to translate Zero's genius to the outside world. Bill Pullman plays Zero with a twitchy brilliance, and Ben Stiller plays Arlo as a man one bad day away from quitting forever. Ryan O'Neal is the shady businessman who hires them to track down a blackmailer, and Kim Dickens plays a mysterious woman who throws a wrench into Zero's carefully controlled life. The movie is a modern spin on Sherlock Holmes, loosely based on the Arthur Conan Doyle story A Scandal in Bohemia. Writer-director Jake Kasdan, the son of famed The Empire Strikes Back writer Lawrence Kasdan, was 23 when he made it, working from a script he wrote specifically for Pullman after meeting him on the set of his father's film, The Accidental Tourist. Nepo baby allegations aside, the movie screened at Cannes and earned strong reviews, but it came and went at the box office. It's since become somewhat of a cult favorite for people who like their detectives brilliant, broken, and deeply weird. Miller's Crossing is the Coen brothers' take on Prohibition-era gangster cinema, following Gabriel Byrne as Tom Reagan, the cool-headed right-hand man to an Irish mob boss who finds himself trapped between rival gangs and shifting loyalties. Albert Finney plays Leo, the aging crime boss clinging to power, while John Turturro and Steve Buscemi circle the edges as volatile, self-interested operators, ready to remind Tom how expendable he really is. Written and directed by the Coen brothers, the movie treats mob life as a sequence of petty arguments, backroom deals, and polite conversations that quietly get people whacked. When Miller's Crossing came out in 1990, it arrived just weeks after Goodfellas had already defined the season's gangster movie. It was largely ignored in theaters and was a commercial flop, but once the dust settled, that context flipped entirely. What felt dense and talky came to be seen as one of the Coens' stronger films, admired for its dark sense of humor, dry performances, and its refusal to romanticize violence. John Cusack stars as Martin Blank, a professional hitman who returns to his hometown for his 10-year high school reunion while juggling therapy sessions, unfinished emotional business, and a job that literally follows him home. Minnie Driver plays his former girlfriend, now a local radio DJ who never quite got over him, while Dan Aykroyd shows up as a rival assassin who treats contract killing like a corporate merger. The film was directed by George Armitage and balances romantic comedy beats with sudden, very real violence, never quite letting you forget what Martin actually does for a living. The movie began when screenwriter Tom Jankiewicz received an invitation to his own 10-year reunion while working at Big Lots and substitute teaching on the side. He scribbled the title on a classroom whiteboard just to see how it looked, and relocated the story to Grosse Pointe simply because the name sounded better, a clean pun on point blank range. For Cusack, it's a career-defining role, and one of his best, showcasing his romantic, cynical, and dangerous sides in equal measure.